Hello everyone, today is December 18th and this is class number 2 in the Sigil Precept. Welcome, I hope that you have enjoyed class number 1. Today we are going to do a little bit more in depth. Before we get to that, I am going to go ahead and go over with you the last class, which was December 4th. So I hope that you guys are able to follow along with that. I would love to hear your reviews, your feedback. So please make sure to contact me. I do check that often. So I hope that the last 2 weeks have also been kind to you. And I'm glad to have you back. So let us begin. So December 4th was a very easy, basic introduction to what the Sigil Precept is. We discussed the concept of what the Sigil Precept is, went through each and every layer, and I explained some things to you guys as to why I wrote it, shared a few stories with you as well. I also went through and I described each of the layers of the Sigil Precept. Today we're going to be delving into layer 1, and we're going to be focusing on the birth, and there's 4 aspects to the birth for this class. Last class, we started with journals. I explained to you that journals are a very integral part of your journey. And the reason being is it's something you can refer back to, and it is a visual reminder about the growth that you have done. And we always want to be able to check that. I also had to do blank check number 1. Today we are going to be doing blank check number 2. But we'll get to that in a minute. I also had you write last week a letter to yourself, kind of giving you an idea of who you were and then now where you are. Or if you decided, you could also do a future letter to yourself. We also discussed moon journals. This is a separate journal from your regular growth journal. With the moon journal, the reason I had a lot of people do the moon journal and the moon phase is each phase of the moon, because we're so deeply connected to the moon, each phase of the moon actually has something that we can do. And again, it's a visual reminder of what we want to get done. That moon phase worksheet was on page 16 in your workbook. To give you an idea, you're still going to be working on this for a while. But to give you an idea, we're going from new moon to new moon. So I asked you to write down the date, the phase, the energy, the reflection, the actions that you want to do, what is to be done. So new moon represents newness, beginnings. Some of the actions you can do there are setting your intentions and any new goals that you want to do. And then during the time frame between that and the waxing crescent, which is the next one, you kind of start working on, setting your goals, setting your intentions, really defining what it is you wanted to do. The waxing crescent would be the next one. And that would be developing your intentions to really start getting your goals being built. The next phase would be the first quarter after that. These are going to be basically your challenges, your decisions, taking actions on everything that you planted on that new moon. This is your action growth aspect. Okay. The next one would be waxing gibbous. This is where you're going to kind of look, okay, I've done this so far and this is working, this isn't. So we kind of adjust during this time phase, kind of refine, re-edit, reevaluate, but you never give up on your goals. And that area is your intention, your goals, how to refine them so that you can continue with your growth. The next one would be the full moon. The full moon is when you harvest, when you're reaping the benefits of all the work that you've done through the new, the waxing, the first, and the gibbous. Okay? This is reaping that. The harvest has done. Okay? But you also start setting and thinking about your intentions for the next half. From the full, we go into the waning gibbous. Gratitude, sharing, enthusiasm, being grateful. You kind of rest a little bit, but you still have the mind going a little, just to start going, okay, what is it I want to work on next? Then we have the third quarter, where we are releasing anything that no longer serves us. We're letting things go. We're forgiving ourselves and forgiving others. The action to this is literally release. Release what is no longer for your highest good. Then we have waning crescent. You kind of recuperate, prepare for the next step. Again, like I said before, you were planning up in the full. And this is when you kind of enjoy yourself, you're surrendering, and you're beginning to really get into the new plan. What is it you really want to do? And you're being specific. And then we go back to the new moon. And this is, again, a phase, and it could be anything. If you're having a hard time with something in your life, I have done this in the past, like I believe I had said before. It kind of helps because we have a chance to see that moon getting larger. And the moon, literally, we are so connected. It's amazing how connected we are. The moon makes the tides rise and fall as much as it does the internal of us, because we are so much water. If you guys would notice during a full moon, it's almost like the energy can be overwhelming sometimes, or can be relaxing sometimes. I used to work in the healthcare field, nursing, and I'll tell you, when we were looking at a full moon, we would dread it because that is when the energies were the highest. So yeah, the moon rises and falls as much as we do. So it's very much a connection. And there was a quote that I really loved by Mark Twain. Everyone is a moon and has a dark side which he never shows to anybody. And it's true. The only time you really see this is during the full moon. Okay. So this worksheet, this moon journal that we were doing, and we're going to continue doing because we're not to the new moon yet. It's to bring in what you would like to see positively within your life. A visual tool to bring forth, everything that you're wishing for, your intentions, your goals, to rid yourself of and balance yourself out. So that was part of our homework last time. The other half was a week in our life, going hour by hour by hour. And I explained to you what my week in a life had looked like before. Now, the reason I wanted you to do this is because a week in our lives is going to show us where we spend our time. Literally, hour by hour, where's our major focus? Now, I know many may be thinking, wait a minute, I have a job, I have kids, I have this, and you do. We are all very, very busy people. And I understand that. I respect that. The reason I'm having you do this is become more mindful as to where our energies lie. We look at, sometimes, I know I do at least, we get so embroiled in the day-to-day that we forget. I believe that there is a percentage of time that we need to spend on each aspect. The mental aspect, that's our growth, that's our learning, that's our recognition, that's our mindfulness. There's the physical aspect where we have to, work, we have to do whatever, the physical things in life to continue, including our jobs. Our emotional, sometimes we don't spend a lot of time on that either. Me personally, if I don't spend enough time to really sit with my emotions once in a while, it will get out of control. And then we also have to look at our other aspects too. And by doing this, what we want to focus on. So we have our mental, our emotional, our physical. Those are the three of the four aspects, and our psychological. you know, how much we love ourselves, how much we care, but our spiritual aspect as well. When we don't spend much time on our spiritual either, then sometimes what happens is we miss out. So we have to kind of have these in balance. Me personally, if one is out of balance, the rest, yeah. So if something is mentally hitting me, okay, worry, stress, okay, mentally hitting me. If I'm overworked, mentally, emotionally, I get very withdrawn or I get snappy. I know I'm a Cancer Leo, so it cannot be pretty. Then it hits me on the emotionals. Then I go into this feeling of, okay, I'm not getting anything done. I'm overwhelmed. As soon as it hits emotional, it hits me physically. If I stay into that too long, it hits me physically. And the dis-ease within my body, literally, I start swelling, I start hurting, which then ups my, my emotional, my mental. So it becomes very, very bad. When I get those things in order, so if I'm able to look at my life and go, okay, I have this big week is coming up. I have to do. If I prepare myself mentally, I know that emotionally and physically, I won't be as stressed. I will not react or act in a negative, and it helps. And it's on any level. Anytime that you're having an issue in your life, we're going to look at, is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? Is it psychological? What is it? And at the core of that, oh, okay, well, it's hitting on this, this, and this. And then you can find a nicer balance. When I first did this workbook and I showed you my literal day in a life or my week when I was volunteering, I literally spent time for sleeping, very little all. My time for sleeping, I think I slept 65 hours in a week. Working, 14. Eating 13, usually that was in my car, which is not helping me physically either. Shopping once. I went shopping once. Reading 7 times. Volunteering 26. Housework 4. Family time 12. Spiritual time 4. Traveling and driving 50. And then other 7. So I spent a total of 203 hours. Okay. 203 hours in a week. And there's only 168 hours in a week. Think about that. 24 hours times 7. I was over 35 hours of what I was supposed to be doing. And there was nothing balanced. I should have been sleeping, eating, volunteering, all that. This should have been an even number, and it wasn't. And by doing this on myself, it was a wake-up call for me. I literally went, okay, we can't be doing this no more. So I stopped. I strive now to try and find balance. And I'm not going to say that it's easy, because it's not. Finding a balance in our lives, very mindful work. So, but this again is to show you, is an exercise to show you where you're spending your time, how valuable your time is. Just like that blank check, is to show you how valuable your time is, how valuable you are. So yeah. So that was last week, or the last class, the last 2 weeks. So this week, or this class, we're going to be focusing on more in depth to the sigil. We're going to begin with layer 1. The aspect we're going to begin with is birth. Now, layer 1, birth, actually has 4 aspects: mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. Okay? So, this is what's going to be going on today in this class. So let's talk a little bit about birth, okay, in this layer. I'm going to show you guys the layer that we're going to be working on. Lovely little diagram. At the very center of this is birth, growth, which is life, rebirth, and death. But we're going to be focusing on just birth today. In your book, starts from page 7, and then we're going to go into page 13, so 7 to 13 in your book, okay? And then I'm going to go back and break things down and tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing this class and homeworks as well. And then I'm going to be asking you some questions along the way that I want you to really delve into for yourself. Now, with all of these videos, with all these classes, and with my book and my materials, again, and I may be doing this every video, if there is something that is triggering you, okay, if you're not ready to deal, or if it's triggering something, please stop. Completely stop. If you feel at any given time that you have to reach out to someone, please do. Do not hesitate. If you feel you need something professional, please reach out and get the professional mental health that you need. There's nothing wrong with reaching out. There is nothing wrong with you stopping. There is nothing wrong or taboo or otherwise to reach out and get help from a mental health professional. Okay? So, please, you are too valuable in this world to not get the help you feel you need. Okay? These exercises, these questions, this class is not about making you triggered. Okay, I want to make that very clear to you. I care for you very, very much. We may have never met. We may have met briefly. I may know you. Either way, you are another human being, and I care for you deeply, and I want you to be a happier person. I would never want you to hurt. So, if that comes up, please understand to stop for your own highest good. Stop and reach out to those that you need to reach out to. Okay? These videos are always going to be here. This book is always going to be here. This workbook, all of this is always going to be here. My intention when I did this was to help, never hinder. Okay? You are a beautiful soul. You deserve happiness, and you are phenomenal. And I want you to succeed. But I want you to be happy too. And safe. Okay? So the first aspect we're going to talk about today is birth. And as I said, it's the 4 elements that we're going to talk about: the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. I'm going to break each one down a little bit, and we're going to talk about different discussion questions. And it's going to be part of your homework. Okay? So, thinking of birth, okay? You know, it's new life. New life springing forth, you know? And this is one of the reasons why I love babies. You know, babies, whether it's human, animal, plant life, you name it. That newness, okay? They're there. They're ready to learn. They're going to grow. They're going to enrich. They're going to expand. They're going to flourish, okay? Birth is an amazing experience. And being a part of a birth experience, I was so amazed. To give you an example, my niece was born. And my sister-in-law had me in there, and she had a cesarean. And now, mind you, I had been in the nursing field for years. And it's amazing. It really is amazing what the body can do, what the body can go through. But this was different. to watch this little teeny tiny life come forth. Oh, it's me right in the feels today. And she's much older now. She's like in her 20s. But to see that life come forth, to see that little tiny being come into the world, and for a moment, the world just stopping, and seeing this tiny little being and realizing the potential this tiny little being has. Oh, it's amazing. You know, and it's not just the human birth. Watching animals be birthed, you're like, oh, just, the same feeling overwhelms you, this birth, this chance of expression on a whole different level. And going into, our seasons, the birth of spring, watching the leaves start to bud out, the flowers bud out, the sense of renewed beauty, life and expression, and on a animal, plant, material, whatever, all that chance to learn, to grow, to expand, to express, to be. This being is in creation and it's blooming. Metaphysically, you're blooming, you're rebirthing, you're coming into a new existence, you're growing, you're expanding, reading a book, taking class, meeting new people, doing new experiences. These are all micro births. It's amazing what happens with these little micro births that happen to us. We change our mindset from what it was to this whole new existence, birthing, new, enriching, expanding ourselves. It is phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. And birth to me, it hits on so many levels. So many levels. It's amazing. But I'm going to focus a little bit more on the human aspect of birth, okay? As wondrous as any birth is, I'm going to focus on the human aspect. So going back to that infant, that child being born, okay? I want you guys to think for a second, okay? I want you to really think hard about this. Do you know your own birth story? Do you remember experiencing it? Not just hearing it secondhand, but experiencing it. Do you remember what it was like? Whether you were cesarean, whether you were, vaginal. Do you remember your actual birth experience? What type of reaction, would you have had? Do you feel you had? Do you know you had? So going back to this birth, I'm going to be talking about this as an infant, because that's who I am. I do mix a little science, and I'm always questioning. And the reason this came up, what we're going to be talking about here in a minute, I have a lot of friends that we delve into some very odd topics, and one of them happened to be birth. Oh, excuse me. And one night. So anyway, we did this and we talked in depth. And the conversation was just flowing in different directions, which is always amazing with a group of like-minded but yet very unique individuals. And the actual question of, do we remember our birth stories, came up. And then it just delved into something else. So I'm going to ask you guys this. Do we really know what type of reaction that birth has on an infant? Not what we are told by science, okay? But what we know without a shadow of a doubt, okay? Do we know what's going through that tiny little mind? What about the emotions that's going through that mind, that being? Do we know? Do we really, really know? You know, and again, going back to science, science will tell you to insert whatever. And I love that. It's not that, I'm all about science. But I'm speaking metaphysically and physically here. Do we know without a shadow of a doubt, because we've experienced it, do we know what's going through that mind, what's going through the emotions, what's going through the body of that infant being birthed? Is it a really traumatic experience for them, or is it a blissful experience? Or is it, like I said earlier, oh, I'm going into something new and I'm going to learn, and what goes through their minds? So one of my questions is, do you know without a shadow of a doubt, okay, what goes through a child's mind, body, and emotions during the birthing process? Are these findings based on your personal earned knowledge and then applied to the findings? Or do we truly know this information and what we speak is the ultimate? Well, I'll be honest with you. For me, no, it's not. I love science. Absolutely love science to a point. Okay. It, has explained a lot in my lifetime, but I have a deeper belief in the spiritual, metaphysical side of life, and this is one of them. I feel that we cannot, without a shadow of a doubt, and this is just my opinion, know what goes through the mind, body, and emotions of that being birthed. Okay? I'm going to drink water here. So I want you guys to think about that for a second. Really chew on that for a minute. I'm not asking you to change your belief systems. You're entitled to your belief systems. Everybody is. I'm just saying from my point of view. Okay? But what is birth if not expansion? Delving into it, doing some research on your own. Okay? All right, so let's delve a little deeper into birth, shall we? As I said, I broke up the birth aspect, the birth part of this, into 4 categories: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. Okay? The reason being is you need to know where you are right now to understand where you came from. Okay? Presently. Okay? To understand where you are presently, to understand right here, right now, to understand where you were. Because where you were, okay, makes up who you are now. Your present self is based on your past selves. Okay? Ask yourself, how did you come to this juncture in your life? Okay? What decisions did you make to get here? What choices did you make? What coincidences happened? Or what coincidences were allowed to happen to get you here in this point in life? What if you made a different decision? That kind of thing. How are you ingrained as a child to deal with the mental level? Do you follow that now or not? If not, where and how did you learn to deal with it differently? Okay. So with that being said, to give you an idea, okay, one thing that I try to do often, sometimes not too much often, because I do have my own triggers from my past, I try to honor whom I was, because she got me to where I am now. Okay. So up to this point in my life, and I'm 48 now. Okay. I have the little maiden, little girl. Okay. And that's birth up to a certain age for me. So many things happened. So going back to these questions, I'm going to give you my answers to give you an idea. So as a little girl, how did I come to this junction in my life? Well, where I'm at right now, spiritually, okay, mentally, right now, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Physically, I came from two people. They had a 7-year interesting run, never got married. She kicked him to the curb the day I was born because he never showed up. Okay, so that's physical. That's how I got here. Okay. Mentally, I got here, and what choices and decisions did I make to get here mentally? I had pretty decent parents. And I do apologize. I'm in one of my offices and they are vacuuming, so I do apologize. They encouraged me to read and to learn and to seek answers to questions. And I was freely given that. And the choices and decisions were my own, as long as I showed respect for my elders and for others. And I was taught that from my parents, both my parents. My father to this day will tell me, did you question it? Did you show respect? I'm 48 years old. The man's, well older than me, my dad, obviously. And he still says, did you show respect? And I better answer yes, because I love my dad. He's like my very best friend. What coincidences happened or allowed to happen to get to me to that point? Coincidences to me, my opinion of coincidences, it's the universe saying, hey, here's a sign. I don't listen. Here's another sign. Coincidences happen for that reason in my belief system, in my thought process. When I was a little girl, I was probably 9, 10 years old. We lived in a very small little town. And we're about 3-4 blocks tops from the library. And in the summertime, like I said, I was an avid reader. I was reading from a very young age. My mom used to read us books. I would sit and read little golden books to my brother, my younger brother. We had a whole collection of them. My mom loved to read. I loved to read. So anyway, I was like 9, 10 years old. And in the summertime, well, I got bored. So like I said, very small town. It was like 5 miles long. Okay. By the time I got in trouble all the way across town and got home, my mom heard the story from 10 different people. Okay. Back then, you got told on. So we were very safe walking around this tiny little town. Okay. Well, one day I told my mom, I said, I'm bored. And she goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to the library. So for this whole summer, halfway actually into fall, I would go every day to the library. No more, there would be no less than a 2-day stretch. And I'd sit for hours in this library. And it wasn't a huge library, but it was a pretty well-stocked library for a small little town. And I'd spend hours there. I got to know the 2 librarians, their family, some of the patrons. I would sit and just read. And I'd take 1 or 2 books home, read, bring them back. I spent my time there at the library. Now, how does this relate to a coincidence? I feel it related to the coincidences and what I allowed to happen because I learned to enjoy quiet. I learned to enjoy acquiring knowledge. These were my choices and my decisions. These were coincidences in the fact that, and it may not fit the definition of coincidence, but for me it was coincidental looking back at it now that I have kind of a comfort where if I'm really, really stressed, okay, and I need downtime, I will pick up a book. I will sit and I will read. I will just immerse myself. And this is what I've allowed to happen. And the coincidences is I literally told myself when I was younger, I'm going to listen for knowledge. I attained a lot of it. Now it is book smart, as they call it, not necessarily street smart at that time, but the coincidences is I still do those. This is what I allowed to happen in my life. I conditioned myself to find comfort from the everyday grind in a book. Okay. If I made a different decision and did what many of my friends were doing, they were going to play basketball or they were roller skating, they were physical, I probably wouldn't have a love of books. I wouldn't have a love of knowledge. I would have a love of, activity. At 48 years old, I could probably use a little activity in my life, but it's okay. I like my curves. How was I ingrained as a child to deal with the mental? And yes, I do continue to follow that to a point. I did learn it differently, but going back, how did I learn to deal with the mental aspects of my life? My parents, up to a certain point, certain age, they would discipline us, of course, like most parents. But at a certain age, I was like 12 years old. I was still grounded up until about age 14. But even probably about 6, 7 years old, my parents would sit down with me if I got into trouble. And like I said, there were a certain set of respectful rules that we followed that we knew. My parents were not horrible with that. We don't touch other people's things. We go to visit. We don't touch other people's, pretty shiny knickknacks, or we always ask permission. We're respectful to our elders. If the parents are talking or the adults are talking in one room, you stay out of that room until such a time that, if you have a question, you stand there politely and you wait your turn. These are all things that were ingrained. How I dealt with the mental was my parents would sit me down. I'm like 6, 7 years old. And I would get in trouble. And it wasn't very often. I was like the middle child. I had my sister who did everything. I had my brother who really did everything negatively. I was kind of like the middle child. Quiet. You'd find me outside reading a book lane, watching the sun or sunbathing. I would sit down with both my parents. They would explain to me in a manner that I could understand. Do you know what you did wrong? And I tell them yes, or I tell them no. If I told them yes, then they would say, okay, why? But if I told them no, they would say, okay, this is what your actions were. This is what we had spoken about. Your action now has to have a consequence. Okay. So yes, I know what I did wrong. Why did you do that? I would give them an explanation. We would talk, have a in-depth conversation. There was never any yelling, but it was a talk. Okay, well, we're not going to allow this to happen again. However, we are disappointed in you. Okay, it was never, I'm mad at you, I'm yelling. I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in you because, and they would give me an explanation. Every action always had a consequence in our house. Okay. So mentally, I knew I was safe talking to my parents. If something came up in my life, I would either go to my mom or my dad, depending on the situation, and I'd say, I need your advice. Okay. Sometimes it was both of them because they both had similar but yet varying different degrees of life experiences they put behind how to deal with things. So mentally, I was prepared at a young age to go out and be, as my parents said, as well balanced as you can be as a human being having a experience in life. They wanted to prepare me for that. Mentally, I was prepared as best I could be. Okay. Do I still follow that? Yes, to a point. Um, I raised my niece for a while in her life. I'm, I hope, I did her honor and justice. But I tried not to yell at her. I mean, there were sometimes, but I tried to sit her down and do the same thing my parents did. I'm not mad at you, but I am disappointed in your actions. So I did kind of go on with that. So a lot of these things that I do, I kind of still continue to do. However, I have changed some of them. And the way I learned to deal with that differently was society. My home life, I had an amazing home life. My parents were phenomenal people. My mom has been passed away since I was 19. And I try to live every day to honor that woman. She's amazing. My dad is still with us. He lives with me, and I try every day I can to honor him. And we have our disagreements. I mean, we're both adults. We have our disagreements, but my parents were amazing. My parents were so in love. My father still is in love with my mother to this day. She was a phenomenal, phenomenal woman. And to know her, just to be her daughter, it's an honor. They would hug each other, they would kiss each other, they'd laugh, they'd joke, they'd sit and they'd talk things through. There was never any arguments, nothing. Everything was talked through in calm voices. Where I learned to have anxiety, where I learned to have depression, where I learned the mental aspects of the society, sadly. School was not easy for me. I was bullied non-stop from kindergarten, first grade, all the way up until I quit school, beginning of the 10th grade to go to adult ed. It got physical. I'm pretty sure some of you guys heard this before, but for some that have not, I was in elementary school, and as you guys know, many of the people that you start out school with, that's your class. And these are the people that you're going to generally see throughout your whole entire school career. Well, I lived in this little town, and I had gone up to school there from very young, elementary, middle school, to high school. And at the time, elementary school, or middle school, I'm sorry, ended in 8th grade. Okay. So it was 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Fourth, from kindergarten, 4th to 4th grade was elementary school. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th was middle school. And then 9, 10, 11, and 12 with high school. Okay. And these schools were like within walking distance of each other at the same property. So I knew these kids from young. Anyway, I was in school, and it was just before class. We're all sitting in our seats. Mind you, I've been going to the school, these guys, for years, okay, and had listened to their bullying for years. They'd steal my backpack. They'd pick on my hair, because I had really long hair at the time. My clothes, they'd pick on me because I was the poor kid, just bully things, horrible bully things. And you're in a small town, word spreads. Anyway, this one kid in particular brings a dog bowl with dog food in it to school. And we're lined up, in our seats. Teacher's up the front. I'm kind of towards middle back of the classroom. And this kid literally put this dog bowl with dog food down and told me that's where I needed to be because I was no better than a dog. And teacher did nothing. Nothing. I'm not going to name names. I was devastated. Mentally, I was going through why? Why would you pick on me something like this? Why? You know, mentally, I was broken. In school, I was broken. Society was not nice to me. So I now have anxiety. I have depression. There are certain triggers, um, things said or done. If I see bullying by anybody to anybody else, if I see bullying, I get livid. Um, so mentally, that's my trigger. Let's just go on to say that my mom, very short, less than 5 foot redhead, had words with the teacher, the principal, the assistant principal, the school board, things like that. Things were handled. My mom was my advocate. You didn't mess with my mom. She was tiny, but she was mighty in the temper, and she was Mama Bear. Man, let me tell you, she was Mama Bear, Mama Lioness. She was, yeah. So mentally, my anxiety for society, because I have issues with, large amounts of people, comes from that. So how did I learn to deal with the bullying and stuff? My parents tried their best, okay, to help me. I learned to deal with it on my own as I got older. Yes, I quit school when I was 16. I went to adult ed. That was my way of dealing with it. So how we deal with things mentally based on our family, and this is like your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, versus society, and that's your friends, just general people in general. You may change a little bit. You may learn something different. Whatever tools that you learn from that inner may not work for the outer. So, you may change a little bit here and there. So when I ask you, if not where and how did you learn to deal with things different mentally? Find out where that core stuff come from. Okay. So what is the mental level exactly? Okay. This is where we learn to become our own person. Okay, that's the mental level. Our judgments, thoughts, personalities, even our belief systems come from our mental aspect. Okay. This is also the level that can make or break us as people. It is what we carry with us throughout our lives, rearing itself whenever we're in similar situations, good or bad. Like I was telling you guys, certain situations, bullying, that is my trigger. That is just one of the many triggers that I have. This is my judgment. I do not tolerate bullying, period, for any reason. I shut it down real quick. If I can't shut it down, I walk away real quick. My personality, that is actually a part of society in that sense too. What I allowed in society, around people that I'm comfortable with, close friends, family, I'm very happy. I'm very bouncy. I'm very da-da-da-da-da-da. When I'm around a situation, I don't know people. I read the energy of the room. I read the energy of the people, and I'm shut down. I will curl up into a ball in the middle of the couch in the corner, and I'll watch and I'll listen. I'm still polite, and I'll answer questions, but I'm very shielded. I'm very quick answer, done. Okay. That is my personality. My thoughts come from that too. Sometimes, I don't know about y'all, but road rage is a bad thing, especially during the holidays. Have y'all noticed this? My issue is literally people in large amounts that get so ingrained into themselves. Well, to give you guys an idea, before coming to the office here today, I literally was at the store, and I was only there for like four or five items. And it took me 45 minutes And all I had to do was go to 2 aisles, 45 minutes, because people would stop in the middle of the aisle and look instead of pulling over, just right in the middle of the aisle. La, 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 la. And I have, excuse me, can I please get through? And I did this more than once. 2 people reacted differently. One of them was an older gentleman, and I'm talking he's like right in the center of the aisle. Okay. And please understand, I understand people are busy. They have their own stuff. I get that. And I waited for a couple minutes, and then I said, excuse me, sir, may I pass you on the right here so that I can get through? I wanted to go down the other aisle. I'm in the middle of this aisle. Okay. His cart is parked in the center of the aisle. We're literally, it would be the same walking distance to either aisle. But there was actually something I needed at the end of that aisle. He turned around and looked at me and went, ugh, not like you can't go around in a different aisle. I'm busy here. There was nobody else in that aisle, just him and I. And I said, but sir, what I need is above you a little bit. He looked me dead in the eye and said, then go around to a different aisle and come back to it. I just took a deep breath and said, I understand that you may be busy, sir, but you and I are the only ones in the aisle. I simply wanted to make sure that I could pass through without startling you, and I would like to do that, please. And I'll pass you here on the right since you're looking on aisles through the items on the stuff on the left. Fine. Obviously, you're not going to listen to what I have to say. So he picked up his cart and slammed it into the left side of the aisle. And I said, thank you, sir. And I kept walking. I picked up my items. Went around to the next aisle. And I heard him literally, no. My thought at that moment in time, that thought at that moment in time was, I'd like to tell him off. Rude, horrible human being. That was my thought. Okay. My thought turned into a judgment, but I did neither one of those. I just went, okay, I got to just continue because it's the holiday season. People are busy. They have all kinds of things. And I kind of turned it around. Get up to checkout, and I went through my personal checkout because I had very few items. I think I had 7 items in my cart. So I decided instead of, these long lines, these poor workers, I'm just going to go ahead and check myself out. I'm in line at the self-checkout, and this woman is behind me, and she's got about 17, 18 items. And she's like, well, I want to go in front of you. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm waiting. There's none open. I said, I believe the one with the longer belt is open soon. If you'd like to take that. I said, I'm just going to use one of these small ones. I have a few items. Well, I'm going to cut in front of you either way because I have to get out of here. And I looked at her and I said, ma'am, it's a line. I'm waiting. I said, however, if the one with the belt comes up first, you're more than welcome to take that one, and I'll just take one of the small ones. I'll wait. However, if one of the small ones opens up before the belt does, I'm taking it. I'm standing here in line waiting. Well, I have to get to work. I said, I'm sorry for that, ma'am. However, I do too. Well, you're just standing here. The first thought in my head was, well, duh. I didn't say it out loud. I'm very proud of myself because, sometimes there's an issue with the filter. I just went, I understand you're in a hurry. However, so am I. And I let it be. So is it something that I learned? When we think of this learning stage, this birth process, is it something that we learned on our own? Yes and no for me. Because my mom would have literally spun around on both those people and looked at the man and said, really? Yeah, that big or that beautiful or, that important that you have to take up the whole entire aisle to make my ass walk around? Now, let me tell you what, you're going to move. And if he would have slammed his part, she would have been like, hope you have a good day. The woman, she literally would have spun around on that woman and said, yeah, wait your turn like everybody else. Okay. However, even though that went through my mind, my thought was kindness. Kindness, as much as it kills me sometimes, kindness. Because I know what it feels like to be yelled at. I know what it feels like to be overwhelmed. kindness. However, there's a point when kindness leaves and Amy, the little mean person, comes in and goes, I'm done. Filters off, let's go. Okay? So, when Amy, the filter's off, that's my mom coming through. Because I was conditioned to stand up and speak your mind, don't take the bull. Don't take the bully. Because, going back to what I had said, my mom literally said, he ever does that to you again, beat the living daylights out of him. Which I did. That's Phil. But you know what? The dude started learning. He didn't bring another dog bowl or dog food to the school again. And my teacher didn't get away with it either. Standing up for myself, that was my mother. Doing it kindly first is my conditioning. Okay? So, the mental level is what has been taught to us. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, so on and so forth, has been taught to us on the mental level. They taught us beliefs, strengths, weaknesses, their conditioning from their past, from their parents, their grandparents, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So homework question for you again. What beliefs were you taught at this stage in life, and do you hold to those beliefs now? If not, what have changed? So my spiritual belief system is, I don't follow much of what the world does. I follow a belief system that is more earth-based, that kind of thing. It's still the mental level. Our beliefs of being kind to human beings, kind to animals, kind to plants, things like that, that was taught by my parents. That was taught by my grandparents. That was taught by my aunts and uncles and friends. Where I go with that now, my beliefs, is even deeper. That is all taught us on our mental level. Okay? All right. Part of your homework for that, for the mental level, is we're going to do what we call 4-year assessments. So, taking a few moments and focus on just the mental. Okay? Look back on your life from where you are now to 4 years ago. Okay? So I'm 48, so what? 44? Yeah. So from 48 to 44, 4 years. And then 44, back 4 years, back another 4 years, every 4-year increments. Okay? Looking back on your life, utilize the memories that you have gathered, okay, from the last 4 years, okay? And continue to look at the prior 4 years of your life from there and assess again. Decisions, choices made, coincidences happened, assess different choices, decisions, anything that has happened to change your life. Continue this 4-year period until you can go back as far as you can actually remember, like in detail, okay? The closer that you remember to your birth, the more information you can gather. Thus, a better understanding that you will gain about your life in general, where your core beliefs, your mental comes from, okay? It's going to be difficult. I'm not going to lie. Again, take your time. Be patient with yourself. If you have to stop, stop, okay? I believe by me doing this, I was able to expand and be able to grow here in my present and potentially my future because of what I learned. We must lie to rest the entirety of my past, and I am working on that. Lying to rest the entirety of your past, but honoring who you were at each phase in your life is something that I believe is very powerful. And I've done it for myself. If you're comfortable doing it, then do it. If it's a trigger for you and you need help, please get it. Okay? I have had many unpleasantries from my past mentally. I've been mentally abused more times than I can count on my fingers and toes, and probably 2 other people's fingers and toes. And I honor those aspects of myself, those people, those beings that were there during that. And yeah, I'm so very glad that they were strong enough to get through so that I'm here today, because those were huge lessons. So, mental, I want you to go ahead and go into your journal. I want you to add any goals and manifestations that you have. Okay. And then for 1 month, beginning now, from now until January 18th, try to change your own perspective on your mental state in any positive way you can. Okay. Work on it daily. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to go into stillbirth, emotional. Okay. It's going to be very difficult. Again, taking it slow and easy. Change is never easy when we are working with our own personal sigil. Okay. Our life and all its, if you really were to kind of like make your own drawing, this, and I call it my scribble life, it goes everywhere, ups and downs, lefts and rights. Okay. This is my own personal sigil. Our lives are a symbolization of who we are right now. It's our own personal sigil. Okay. Change is never, ever easy. Okay. It's not until we actually get through it that we actually see the journey was a large part of the transformation that happened within us. Who we were, who we are, who we're hoping and working to become for the future. Okay. So, as we did prior in the emotional or the mental, we're going to do the emotional. Okay. So what is the emotional level? And for those of you that are looking, we're looking on page 26 so far in our workbook. This is the most volatile level for almost every person on the planet. We're not aware of our emotions until they bubble over. Sometimes it's way too late to take them back. Emotions are powerful. By nourishing sometimes our emotional level, we can help to bring a balance to other areas in our lives. Okay? So that's why we need to be very, very careful and tread carefully and lightly on our emotional level. Okay? So with that being said, we're going to be looking at the prior 4 years like we did before, going back 4 years, another 4 years from there, another 4 years. And what we're going to do, how do you feel at this particular junction in your life? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled in all the ways you thought you would be emotionally? If this present nourishing you at the highest emotional level? If not, what can you do to make it so it does nourish you to the highest emotional? How have your emotions assisted you so far in life? How have they hindered you? Have you been overly emotional, not emotional enough? How were you ingrained as a child to deal with the emotional level? Do you continue to follow that or not? If not, how did you learn to deal with it differently? So, I'm going to give you guys my answers. Emotions, like I said. I've always been an emotional person. And my mom and dad were great with helping us to understand why we were crying or why we were upset about an area. And they would let us cry if we needed to, but then they would, say, okay, now we got our emotions out. Let's talk. I still do that. It's harder for me now sometimes because, honestly, life is, as an adult, is a lot harder than a child. We don't have that foundation. Am I happy in my life? Yes, I'm very happy. How do I feel at this particular, point in my life? I'm good. I'm stable. I've learned tools to help with my anxiety, with my depression and things. I continue to learn that. I put my mental health as a priority. My emotional health as a priority too. Is it nourishing me at my highest emotional level right now? Yes. Do I know if it's going to in the future? No. What can I do to maintain this at least? Really understand I am a being having a human experience, and I'm going to get emotional, and I'm going to sit with those emotions for a little bit. And then I'm going to pull my big girl panties on, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to keep moving. But that's how I personally deal with it. Do I rant, rave, holler? Oh, yes, very much so. I get very angry and I lash out verbally. I try to temper myself and my words. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I make a fool of myself and I have to go back and apologize. So that's how I make it so. How have they assisted me? I'm really good, I feel, at understanding people. And when they're lashing out, usually it's a defense mechanism. And I'm no different. I've been overly emotional and I've been not emotional at all. I've been shielded. I've been shut off. And it's not pleasant to see. When a boundary is crossed, I will give people warnings. You're getting real close to a boundary here. And I've gotten better over the years as I've gotten older. This is a boundary that I will not go across, and I make that clear. I was very wishy-washy in my speech when I was younger. Now, as I've gotten over, especially in the last 5-6 years, it's like, nope, I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm feeling right here, right now, in the raw, dry form, no filter attached, so there is no chance of miscommunication. This is a problem and I would like to help solve it. However, I'm angry at this moment. I'm walking away. Or, you push past a boundary with many warnings. We're done. Period. Plain and simple. My boundaries protect my emotional stability. I am the type of person, I try to help people as much as I can. There will come a time when, nope, I'm done. I love you. I wish you the best. However, this boundary is not going to be crossed. We're done. Kind of thing. My mom and my dad were both the same way. My dad still is. He'll be quiet about things for a while. Then all of a sudden he'll be like, nope, we're done. I learned how to deal with it literally in society. Some of the jobs I had, some of the schoolings I went to, some of the people I interacted with, I learned how to deal with that. And I'm glad I did because it helped. So, question for you. Upsets happen in life every single day, multiple times a day. Sometimes it's the little things that set us off, the littlest, tiniest things. But how do you deal with these upsets in a beneficial way for yourself, first and foremost, and then outwardly to the relationship or the situation, to the person? How can you change them to help benefit you? Okay? So think about that. And as we did, like I said, in the mental, we're going to go back every 4 years. Okay? Looking back, assess the decisions, choices made, coincidences, how different emotional responses and choices may have happened to change your life. Continue with 4-year periods, going back as far as you can actually really remember clearly. Okay? The closer you remember to your birth, the more information you're gathering, and the more you're going to understand about what's going on in your life. Okay? It's going to be difficult. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be very, very difficult. Take time. Okay? That's the big thing. Take time. Okay? All right. We have talked about the mental. We have talked about the emotional. We are now going to talk about the spiritual. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, with the emotional as well. Homework for the emotional, besides the questions and the assessments, I want you to add goals and manifestations to your journals in relation to what you would like to change or see a change in your mental. Okay? I want you to add for a month, because you're going to do 4 things this month: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. Try to temper your emotions. Be more aware how you feel. Speak to yourself and others. This is very, very important. When we speak negatively of ourselves, we are speaking to our minds, which will make our minds change how we view ourselves. When we do that to somebody else, we are spewing our toxicity to somebody else, trying to make them feel less than so that we feel better, and it hits them on an emotional level. And if you're not in their shoes, living their life, you don't know where their emotions are. And it's unfair to both of you. Same with mental, same with spiritual, same with physical. Okay? So temper your emotions. Be mindful for a few minutes every single day before you speak, before you engage. Okay? And journal about it as well. It'll help. It's very dry in here today. So, on to spiritual aspects, shall we? The spiritual aspect of birth. In this level lies our belief system, okay? We may start with an original one, but we can grow into another system, and this is completely normal, okay? As we grow, as we expand, as we gather more information in our lives, our beliefs do the same, okay? The spiritual level is the level where the information gathered, okay, as we live our lives, is literally changing our lives, and it becomes our coping method, okay? So, what I mean with that is, in our spiritual level, our belief systems, when growing up, okay, I had a very odd family growing up. My mother's family was Baptist. My father's family was Pentecostal, okay? When I was little, like up until like 2, 3, maybe even 4 years old, we went to church. We went to a Baptist church one week. We went to a Pentecostal church the next. But I was like 3, 4 years old and we stopped going. My mom came from a Baptist family. I think my one aunt became Catholic, I think. One is a Southern Bible Baptist. I can't remember what the other ones were, but my dad was always Pentecostal. Well, after a certain time in our lives, and I didn't understand this until I got older, we stopped going to church. Okay. And I was like 11 or so, 11, 12 years old. And I had friends within the same small little town. They were different religions, and we had quite a few different churches. And each of my friends wanted me to go to church with them because at that time we didn't go to church. So I went to my parents. I'm like, hi, yeah, I got a question. What religion are we? What belief system do we follow? And my mom and my dad sat us down and explained to me, what was going on. And I asked my mom, why don't you go to church anymore? She goes, honestly, she's like, I will read the Bible when I feel the need to, when I feel I need something. She's like, but I look at life and experiences in a different way. But do I believe in God? Yes. Do I believe in Jesus? Yes. Based on the Baptist belief system. I said, okay. She's like, but I applied a little differently for myself. My dad said the same exact thing, but Pentecostal. I said, okay. I explained to them. My friends wanted me to go to church with them. They were like, go for it. Go find your belief system. What our belief system should not define what your belief system is. So I said, cool. And I went through a lot of churches. I went to a lot of events. I learned a lot about religion. I talked to pastors. I talked to ministers. I talked to youth leaders and youth groups and, all these wonderful people. And I got a really good idea of about 7 or 8 different religious paths. And I was fascinated. But I never followed a singular one. I followed what my parents followed. I followed earth-based stuff. We were doing divination. We were, herb gathering. We were doing things that normally nobody would do. And I did those. My friends didn't do those. My friends would come over and do them with me, but didn't understand. We would do readings with playing cards, things like that, things that you would not see at most churches. So I grew up with that. Then as I got older, I got into nursing, and I was in mental health first when I got into nursing in the private sector. And then I went to drug and alcohol addiction, became a nurse there. I did hospital ER. I did hospice. That's where I ended my career. During this time, I seen religious belief systems, not just religious beliefs, but belief systems come into play. The biggest thing I learned was from a very good friend. He was actually Catholic priest, retired. It was one of the first times that one of my clients had passed away on me. And I was doing hospice. Wonderful woman. Her name was Gladys. She had a double mastectomy. She was a cancer survivor. She was 74 years old. Sprightly, happy, just amazing. And I had a phone call at 10 o'clock, and I was supposed to be there at 8 a.m. The next morning, I had a call at 10 o'clock from the night nurse letting me know that she had passed away. I was devastated. I was 19 years old. She was one of 14 clients at the time I was dealing with, and she was just amazing. I got off the phone and I sobbed. This is the first time a client had ever passed away on me. So I called up my Catholic priest friend and I said, how do we deal with this? I don't understand. And he goes, go there, because I had to be there the next morning anyway. He goes, go there, talk to the family. Just go there. So I did. And I had questions asked to me that I just didn't understand from the family. Was she in pain? She was asking for God to forgive her. Why? All these questions. So I started paying attention. And then my mom got sick. My mom started going back to church. And I asked her, I said, why are you going back to church, Mom? She goes, honestly, it's just like, because I'm afraid of death. She's like, I don't understand what's next. She's like, and I want to make sure I'm right with the world. I said, okay. I went back to church with her and stuff when I could. I was actually her hospice nurse, and I was working for Visiting Nurse Support Services a couple of years later. And she passed away too. Wanted to know that she was okay, that her soul was going to be okay. This is where our coping mechanism comes. When something traumatically happens in our life, something hard happens, we beg the heavens, we beg our gods, we beg, we go to our belief system to help us cope with the situation. We beg, we plead. These are our coping mechanisms to help us get through, because we're putting our faith in something more. We're putting our hopes, our dreams, our wishes into something more. And I kind of changed. I went from what I was raised as something a little bit more for my own coping mechanism. And I use it to this day. Okay, universe, why did you just kick me when I was down? I'm already down. Time out. Give me a time out here. Let me catch my breath. What are you trying to teach me, kind of thing. I still reach out. We all do. It's our coping mechanism for what's going on, because it's beyond our comprehension. So we reach out. My question for the spiritual level is it what your parents taught you? And if having a coping mechanism is very beneficial in your other areas, because it's going to make you realize, oh, okay, this may be happening because da-da-da-da, whether it's yourself or other or whatever. It's still a lesson. Going back to what your parents taught you, do these coping skills help you then? Do they still help you the same now? How about your beliefs? Are they the same or different as a child? If so, how have they been beneficial to you? Are you still growing, expanding from the teachings of your past? The question shall always be about growth and hindered. Are you growing or are you being hindered? That kind of thing. So the spiritual level is literally that. It's where we gather the information to change our lives. Part of your homework for the spiritual level is, again, going back, doing that every 4-year assessment. Same questions as we did before. This time you're not going to do anything for the spiritual other than just those assessments and answer those questions. Okay? The last one we're going to talk about is the physical level of birth. The physical level is very difficult for some because it's where we are purposely adhered to right now. Okay? So with that being said, our physical level. Transformation is a huge issue. When we look at our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual, it comes out into our physical. Okay? Different aspects of your life is going to show you the culmination in that one level of physical. Okay? The level is what people hold very high in the physical. I call the physical level the Joneses level. Okay? That's literally what some of us want to keep up with, the Joneses and all they possess, because the physical level is where we reside. Okay? We kind of, possess everything we can in the physical. Trinkets, clothes, shoes, bag, cars, houses, whatever it may be, the physical level. Okay? We try to keep up with in the mentality of what the Joneses have. Okay? But some people can't understand the Joneses have up and filed bankruptcy and moved out long ago. They're on a tiny little salary. They're barely surviving, and yet in our minds, we are physically trying to keep up with the Joneses. Okay. To give you an idea, I had this friend. She was and is an amazing person. We are no longer friends, but she taught me quite a bit, and like I said, she is an amazing person. One of the problems that I had, and one of the reasons why our friendship had to end, she would try her best to make everyone think that she was and had the best. She would pay top dollar for everything. And then her and I would go to the store, and she had to have name brand everything. Okay. And that was her choice. It was her pocketbook, not mine. She'd get so upset at me because I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm not paying $60 for a pair of jeans that I'm going to wear maybe once or twice. And I'd tell her I'll go, thrift store or something like that. And we would go out to have lunch. And she loved lavish lunches. I'd go out to lunch with her and it'd be like, I'd have a side salad if I was lucky, because I'm sorry, I'm not paying $40 for some lettuce. And I told her this, and because she had asked, she said, well, why aren't you going to get, this? Why are you paying only $5, $10 for a salad, but you can get a $40 salad? It's much better. And I looked at her and I said, do you see what's on the $40 salad versus what's on the $5, $10 salad? I said, I'm sorry, I'm not paying that price for extra little trinkets on top that I'm not going to enjoy when I can get the same nourishment from something smaller. She used to be very upset because I would not spend. Well, fast forward a couple of years, And she comes to me and she's devastated. She had a really good job. She had a really good house. Her husband had a really good paying job. They had one child. She come to me one day and she's like, I'm devastated. I said, what's the matter? She goes, my husband's divorcing me. He lost his job and he has a chance to get another job in Florida, but he's divorcing me. He's not taking me with him. I said, why? Because I put us in such heavy credit card debt. I said, well, okay, get on a budget. And I'm sorry about your husband. I said, maybe the two of you can work it out. Get yourself on a budget, get yourself on the same game plan. She goes, no, you don't understand. She's like, I'm losing my job too. She's like, if I don't accept a lower paying job at the place where I'm working, I will have no job. And I'm just like, wow. She's like, so I have to sell everything. It was just this whole, holy cow. And, we talked through some, resolutions and stuff. And at the very end, I answered, I said, how is it you maintained that life when you were going bankrupt, basically? She goes, credit cards. I had to maintain my image. And I asked her, I said, but who are you trying to maintain it for? Who's looking? Who's judging? She was looking back on it now, myself. She's like, but in that moment, I thought the world would judge me if I didn't have everything. She's like, but I realized it was myself. I had to have it for myself. I built myself up to be designer everything and to live the lavish life. She's like, for nobody but myself. And it was a few months after that she moved away and kind of just fizzled out. I just thought to myself, wow, that Jones's level, she had a big, beautiful home, good jobs, good husband, and they were financially destitute and had been for at least 6 months. And they were getting by with credit cards, and it literally destroyed them. And in the end, she lost it all. As far as I know, when she moved, she actually moved in with a friend of hers in a small 2-bedroom apartment, kept a lower paying job, and eventually was thinking about going back to school when we stopped talking. She lost everything. Her husband even got the child because he had a better chance of raising it on the salary he was getting in those 2 months. So she was keeping up this level of physical for herself in the long run. So that's why I call the physical level our Jones's level. We hoard. We hoard people. We hoard things. We hoard. And I literally, I'm just as bad. We feel bad about something. We purchase something. We splurge. We buy until we have no more room, and we still buy more. But in the end, what does it really get us? How does it actually help us when we still feel bad after the purchase? And we continue that cycle. The study of this level, the physical level, is to open you to the possible shifts in your personal perceptions of value. Okay? How we value things. But let me ask you, it's a physical level. How much value do you place on yourself? Okay? We don't value ourselves as much as we value the things we purchase. And I see quite a bit of this when I do readings. The questions are always the same. It's just different people are different, worded different. Will I be rich? Will I get the job? Will I get the house, the car, the new man? Rarely do I ever hear, will I be a better person if I do whatever? Or if I want to help this person, what is the outcome? If I study this, if I learn this, if I apply this, how is it going to affect my life? It's always money, job, house, car, man. Thanks. That's why the physical level is the hardest. And one of the hardest lessons of the physical level is the tangible object of self. That's the biggest and most important tangible object is ourself. The self needs just as much love and care as we give our homes, our family, our friends, our jobs, vehicles, our emotions, our thoughts, even our spiritual beliefs. Our self holds all of these elements together. That's the physical level. It's our life base through and through. Okay. It's where we gather the items that make up our outer appearance, our shells. Like the spiritual level, we use these tangible items as a coping mechanism as well. When we feel bad, we splurge. When we want to impress, we splurge. Okay? These are the things that we do to make us try to keep up with the Joneses. The physical level is the hardest. Okay? Now, I'm not saying you're a bad person if you have all that. Okay? Just be aware of it. It can be gone in a blink of an eye. You should value yourself first. Hence why we talked about literally the checks. Okay? So, part of your homework for the physical level is I want you to think about this. I want you to think of our home, our cars, our businesses, all the hiding place too, barns, attics, storages, bank accounts, all of it. Okay? These are tangible items in our lives. Physical, tangible items. Okay? So beginning with your present life, I want you to take a look at the things you've collected throughout your entire life. Ask yourself, at this junction in your life, are these physical items, do they own you or do you own them? What value do you put on them? What do you hold higher, yourself or your item? Okay? Can you part with something or do you need to continue to hold on to these items? Do these items fulfill you? If so, how? If not, why? Have they assisted you or hindered you? If so, how? Are you able to experience the beauty that is around you because of these items? Do these items make you feel like you're changing the world? Are they awe-inspiring for you? How magical are they in your life? Are they nourishing you? How were you trained as a child to deal with the physical level? Do you continue to follow that or not? If not, where and how did you learn? So you're going to go back 4 years again. Okay. I start assessing the smaller, like your accessories, your shoes, your clothes, your jewelry. Each item that you handle, where did you get it from? Who gave it to you? Why do you possess it? Does it own you? Do you own it? Can you part with it and still remember the reasons behind having it or holding on to it? Going on to the next aspect is your mid-size aspect, your furniture, collectibles, vehicles, these things. Do this again. Is it serving a purpose that you actually need or could be served another way? Why do you possess it? Does it own you? Do you own it? Can you part with it and still be happy? Then the large items, the home, bank accounts, job. Breathe, my beautiful people. Breathe. Take a deep breath in. Okay? Because it's going to be hard. This is going to be difficult. This is going to be heart-rending sometimes. Okay? I'm stating that this dimension is just about assessing what you have learned. What you hold near and dear is all I'm asking you to do right now in the physical. Okay? Assess them. Place each item into a category. Place a number rank next to it. Rank that value over others where you can make the appropriate changes. Okay? The ultimate key to change is honesty. Deep, true honesty. I cannot stress that enough. If you cannot be brutally honest with yourself in all areas and want to make that change, there's no reason to continue. No reason to make that list. Okay? Assessing the decisions and choices you've made in each category. What coincidences? Or did you just make a choice to purchase these items willingly? Have all the items affected your life positively? Your responses and choices based on, items, have they changed? Can you eliminate or change any of these? Continue with the 4 years back, okay? And to get back to where you can actually remember, okay?